Hello and welcome back to the Masonic Roundtable, a weekly hangout where Masons from around the world get together to talk about Masonic news and opinions in a friendly and social manner. The thoughts and opinions expressed here are solely the opinions of the participants and do not represent any Grand Lodge statements or positions. Make sure you keep your conversations open for the public and on the level. To interact with us, send questions and comments to our Twitter page at Mason Roundtable or on the Facebook event page. My name is John Ruark. I'm a past master of the Patriot Lodge, number 1957, in above average Fairfax, Virginia. And I'll hand it off to Robert Johnson.
Hey guys, Robert Johnson, current master of Waukegan Lodge in Waukegan, Illinois. That's number 78. I don't think I said that. Anyway, host of Whence Came You Masonic podcast. Thanks.
Thank you, Robert. Nick Johnson.
I'm Nick Johnson. I am a past master of Corinthian Lodge, number 67 in, that's right, Big Time Farmington.
Wait for it. Good. Thank you, Nick. Juan Sepulveda.
Good evening, everybody. Juan Sepulveda here. I am a member of Orange Blossom Lodge, number 80 in sunny Kissimmee, Florida, and the host of the Winding Stairs Freemasonry podcast.
Thanks for joining us as usual, Juan. And last but not least, Jason Richards.
Hey everybody, my name is Jason Richards and I am the Junior Warden of Acacia Lodge number 16 in good old Clifton, Virginia.
Nice. All right. What a lively introduction tonight. Okay, moving right into Masonic news. As a reminder, it is July, which means at the end of this month is the completion date for registration to the Masonic Restoration Foundation, one of the big events happening on the East Coast on August 21st through 23rd, 2015 in Philadelphia, where you can talk all sorts of good traditional observance, Masonic restoration goodness. I think it's what, their fifth one? Sixth one?
Sixth. So
they have a good lineup there. Registration is $110, and as usual, Jason and I will try to be there. We'll definitely get something confirmed sooner than later. I just got to go check my calendar.
This week. We will confirm this week.
That sounds like a plan.
Ish.
You'll confirm that you'll confirm?
I can neither confirm nor deny my confirmation. Alrighty. Jason, why don't you talk about some activities in the blogosphere over the past week?
Oh, thanks for throwing me under that bus.
Hey, catch this grenade.
Yes. Oh, is this hot potato? Oh, it blew up in my head. John and I, at the request of Robert Johnson, who is the managing editor for the Midnight Freemasons, wrote an article for the Midnight Freemasons that talked about the recent Supreme Court decision for marriage equality that came down a couple Fridays ago, and it brought us, it got us thinking about Freemasonry and homosexuality in Freemasonry, and that was spurred partially by some Reddit posts that we had seen where it had been reported that in a couple jurisdictions the sheer promotion of homosexuality, like being an ally for homosexuals, could be deemed by the letter of the law a Masonic offense punishable by expulsion. So John and I just took a look at that in light of the Supreme Court decision for marriage equality and said, okay, let's take a look at this idea of unmasonic conduct, because it's talked about. Albert Mackey talks about unmasonic conduct, but it's never really been explicitly defined. It's always one of those things where they're like, I'll know it when I see it.
Like pornography.
I was trying to be a little more subtle, but yes. So John and I, for the first part of this article, attempted to define what unmasonic conduct really is, what the intent of it is, and it's something that brings harm to the fraternity, and try to give it more of an objective definition and classification, vice the inherently subjective equation to morality, which is another ubiquitous term that's often ill-defined but often quoted. So within that, we took a look at the idea of homosexuality as unmasonic conduct within the construct of the objective definition that we laid out. And you can go ahead and read the article. We'll post it on the show notes. I think we put forth a good case that the fraternity is great, and it's an organization that is deeply rooted in wonderful traditions, but not everything that's always been done needs to stay that way. I think the fraternity has an opportunity here to catch up with society, and that was the gist of our piece. But go and read the entire thing, because I think it's very well done. There's a number of people over the weekend who disagreed with me on that. That's okay. We kind of set the internet on fire on Friday.
You did. You guys did such an amazing job with that piece. It couldn't have been done any more professional. I think you guys, for me, I was really proud that was on something that I was affiliated with. I think you guys just did such a fantastic job. So.
And for those of you who are listening, I'm going to go out on a limb and say this. I didn't put this in social media, but I am a lifelong committed Christian who takes his faith very seriously. And I wrote this article with this view and put my own concept of morality, whatever that is, completely away for the purposes of Masonry. Because I think when you get to something like homosexuality, it is, as we explain, it is something that is deeply rooted in politics and religion. And politics and religion have no place inside the lodge. So as a lifelong committed Christian, I wrote this article on homosexuality and the Masonic fraternity and came to the conclusions I did. Almost in spite of my worldview.
Yeah, I think a lot of Christian Masons has certainly put their version of morality out there as well. It definitely sparked a great debate. Most of it was brotherly and professional, while a few had to be taken care of. I think the only debate that's hotter than this one would be points in or points out.
Right. It still stands.
It never ends.
Yes, and thank you, Juan, for stirring that hornet's nest on your page tonight on the Winding Stairs Facebook group.
Yeah, and John, if I may, I commend both of you, Jason and John, for having the courage to bring forth this discussion. Among the comments, especially some of the most incendiary ones within the blogosphere and the internet, were saying that this should not even be discussed. And I want to go on record, if I wasn't clear enough in my posts, that this is what makes it important for it to be discussed. Yes, we don't want to bring politics and we don't want to bring religion into the lodge room while we're conducting business, while we're doing the business of the lodge. However, as men, as Masons, as active members of society, we are to be courageous and go forth and discuss these things that are difficult. It is our responsibility. How do you think change comes about in society, if not by courageous men going out and discussing difficult topics?
Discussing things over drinks in a tavern.
But the most important thing, and some of you brothers got your aprons in a bunch with this discussion, it is important to keep your civility. Yes. In the process of having this discourse, you have to continue to be a gentleman. You have to be a brother and show brotherly love, even towards other brothers who you might not understand, towards other brothers whose behavior you might not understand or background you might not understand. It is your duty as a Mason to keep your passions within due bounds and extend your brotherly love. to all the brothers.
And that's really hard to do with such an emotional topic, as we found out.
But it has to be done.
But it has to be done, and I would say, another point as far as, whether or not we should be discussing things. Stuff like this is the reason we formed the Masonic Roundtable, to spark constructive discussions on major issues in the fraternity. And if we don't discuss this now, we're just going to keep sweeping it under the rug. And had we not talked about racism for the past 3 or 4 decades, we could still have issues with minorities being blackballed just because of the color of their skin, and that probably happens every now and then. So this is, I think, another big issue that we have to get out in the open, so that we can take a stand and say, okay, is this or is this not something we're going to go with?
So there we are. So we'll definitely be addressing online Masonic etiquette in a show very soon. All right. Let's see. Also, Jason, you want to talk about the Radio Fraternity Lodge?
Yes. Sean 2EchoZero, who is one of our awesome listeners, had a chat with me. He's from the UK. Had a chat with me this week, and want to give a very, very special shout out to his lodge, which actually meets in Freemasons Hall in the United Grand Lodge of England building. It is the Radio Fraternity Lodge number 8040 in London, formed in 1965. They're having their 50th anniversary this year, and it is an affinity lodge, as we've talked about previously on our show, for amateur radio operators. And that's just so cool and so neat, and I just want to wish those guys all the very best, because that's just a really cool thing to be a part of, and they're contributing to some of the nerdier aspects of Freemasonry, which is amazing.
Woohoo!
Hopefully we'll see you guys in 2017. That'll be fun.
It's a definite maybe.
Hey, listen, I've got people asking me, like, they want to get in on, like, group sales tickets with us to go. So, be ready.
Okay?
Brace yourself. TMR is coming. All right. I think that's all we got for news this week. Let's hand it off to Brother Johnson.
Oh, it's me?
With what do we have?
Oh, that would be MMQ. OT.
OT.
Oh, yeah. I know, everybody's been so excited, especially because this last week's question was apparently a stumper. I'm a little surprised, but that's okay. And so I'm going to give a huge shout-out to Justin Miller, who was first, and then John Primo, who was second, for finding the answer, which was the Colombian Grand Council, which was founded in New York City in 1810. Yes, I know. It was crazy town, but we did have 2 correct responses, so I'm very proud of you guys. Excellent work.
Remember,
Right, so,
second place is just first loser.
if you ain't first, you're last. There you go. Ricky Bobby.
I want to go fast.
Yeah. All right, so I decided to go a different route. Usually whenever we talk about Declaration of Independence, it's all about 9 Masonic signers of the Declaration, blah, 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 right? I went a different route. So this week's question for the week of July 6th, 2015 is, we often discuss the 9 Masonic signers of the Declaration of Independence. The men who signed that founding document were influential in not just politics. They were also lovers of science and the humanities. 2 of the Masonic signers also served as charter members of the still existent, very prestigious honorary society, founded in Massachusetts in 1780. In its first election the next year, Masonic luminaries Benjamin Franklin and George Washington were invited as members. What is the name of this honorary society? And your bonus question is, this famous Masonic jurist served as its president from 1935 to 1937? Name this jurist. When you have the answer, send it to masonicmonday@gmail.com. Don't forget to include your name, your lodge name, lodge number, if they have one. I know you Massachusetts guys are biting at, just gnawing at that bit, and so you don't have numbers. But everybody else with a number, don't forget it. And then the hashtag July 4th hangover. There we go. John?
Awesome. Thank you, Nick. Alrighty, moving into this week's topic, we are going to discuss Masonic wonders of the world. Actually, the way we were going to approach this is do a round-robin discussion, much akin to the way we did it with our favorite Masonic books. Since there are too many to count, we'll go until the time runs out, and we will start by going around discussing a Masonic site, location, activity, area that we'd like to visit sometime in our lives. So it's a kind of consider it like a Masonic bucket list. We try to look for things that may or may not be unusual, may or may not be unique, but definitely something that we recommend all of you listeners try to visit sometime in your life.
Remember, a recommendation is not an endorsement.
That's correct.
Sorry.
So, I'll kick things off by saying that my first recommendation for one of the Masonic wonders of the world is the Grand Lodge of Pennsylvania's building in good old Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love.
Not as good as Clifton.
Not as good as Clifton. But for those who have not been there, it's right smack dab downtown in Philly. And once you see it, it's definitely a treasure that is buried within the city. You know, it's a huge building, you can't miss it. But what's on the inside? It's almost like a TARDIS. It's even bigger on the inside. Because look at these buildings. This is just one of many rooms that this Grand Lodge building has. It is still operational, so there are lodges that meet there. It is also the Grand Lodge headquarters where they perform all their activities, and it's also a museum where they have artifacts from Benjamin Franklin, George Washington, and others. So it's just chock full of everything. If you are a Mason and go to visit, you do get a discount. It's like a whole $1 off. But definitely that's my first.
And the tour guides are nicer to you.
They are. All the tour guides are brothers, I believe. And I mean, what's wrong with that? What can you say about that? So, have you guys been to it? I know Jason has. I know I have.
I may have been there together.
I think you're right. But if you haven't been there, go there for the MRF activity here in late August. All right, so I will hand it off to my first volunteer. Who wants to go next to talk about their next Masonic wonder of the world?
I nominate Nick Johnson.
Nick Johnson.
Me? Oh boy. All right. Well, I'm gonna do mine by region because then I can get more of my list in all at once. But I have
the Earth.
I have 2 in London, and guess what? One of them is not Freemasons Hall. I'll let somebody else take that. But then I will give a little commentary because there is a reason I do want to see it, but not necessarily for its Masonic purpose. Anyway, the 2 buildings that I would really love to see in London are, the first one would be let me pull it up. Where's that screen share? There we are. It is the Supreme Council building on 10 Duke Street. And this building is just, I've been looking at it, and it looks amazing. It's the head of the Rose Croix in England. This is where the Supreme Council 33rd sits in England, and it looks like it's one of the coolest buildings. And this is an inside look of the building itself, you know, with a lot of the beautiful wood paneling and things like that. But I'd love to see just what Scottish Rite the Scottish Rite and Rose Croix would look like in London. Now, obviously, I'd have to join the Scottish Rite, which is fine. I'll do that. And I know I'm only going to be able to see a little bit of it because a lot of it's honorary, but I would love to see the inside of that building.
I've got a petition
second
for you.
place, yeah. The second place I'd like to go is 86. I can't remember the street name, but this is Mark Mason's Hall. It's not as big as Freemasons Hall, but this is where a lot of the appendant bodies, like obviously Mark Master Masons, have their lodges there, but there's also a lot of other different organizations that meet there, Red Cross of Constantine, and I would love to be able to experience the different types of how appendant bodies function in England, because it's a very different system than what we have in this country. And
so Nick, that's 86 St. James Street?
Yes, that's the right one. 86 St. James. And so this is Mark Mason's Hall, and it's very different. A lot of the Knights Templar preceptories meet there. And so I would probably be spending a lot of time in that building. I'd probably never leave, and they tell me to leave, and then they call in what do they call them, bobbies? Is that what they're called? You know,
Yes.
the little hats, and they spin those little sticks around, you know.
Hey, let me ask you this: is that where the Grand Lodge of Mark Mason's is located?
That would be correct, and actually, I think it hosts a number of those different bodies. The Conclave of Red Cross of Constantine, I think, is there. The Great Conclave of Red Cross. I think Secret Monitor is there. A lot of stuff is there, and I would just
Cool.
I'd be spending an inordinate amount of time in that particular building, I'm sure.
All right. Well, thank you, Nick. You broke the rules already and gave 2. So
Woohoo!
you're such a rebel.
Regional.
One singular region. All right, let's hand it off to Juan Sepulveda for the next Masonic wonder of the world.
In retaliation for the breaking of the rules, I'm posting the answer to the Masonic Monday question on Facebook.
You know what happens if you do that, right?
What happens?
They will actually fire both actors from the new Daredevil season 2 now that they have just hired Elektra to be in that movie, and then we will miss out on pretty much the greatest version of Daredevil ever to hit any screen, big or small.
Let the record reflect that 23 minutes after the beginning of the Masonic Roundtable, episode 73, action heroes were mentioned. I'm doing a statistical analysis about this.
There's a game, I can tell. So, Juan, what's your site?
Okay, I'm changing the order of mine. I will say just one. I do want to visit the Grand Lodge of Puerto Rico for many reasons. First of all, I haven't been to Puerto Rico since a long time ago, 2009. So I want to go back. There's a lot I want to do. But there's a lot of history in the Grand Lodge of Puerto Rico. And for the brothers that are listening that have some tie to Puerto Rico, I want to mention a couple of the names of the influential people in Puerto Rico who were Masons. And you'll recognize a lot of these names. Federico de Geto. We have Eugenio María de Hostos. We have José Celso Barbosa. Luis Muñoz Rivera. There's a lot more. I don't want to go through the whole list. I will share in the show notes a link to where I found a list of famous Masons of Puerto Rico, for those of you who are interested. But in connecting to the history of my country of origin, of my island, I want to learn more about the history, and I know that there's a lot of Masonic history in it. So I would love to pair up with a knowledgeable brother when I go down there, go visit the Grand Lodge, which is a beautiful building, and geek out completely on Masonic history and Puerto Rican history. And that's where my brother and my father go.
Excellent.
Which is a
Very
bonus.
cool. Win-win. Okay, Jason Richards.
Okay, so back end of last year, my wife and I went to Italy and had a fantastic time. And I missed a couple episodes of TMR, and everybody was really sad. But as part of my awesome trip. I actually, while in Florence, got to go see the Museum of Masonic Symbols, which is run by this Italian gentleman who is really the mad scientist of Freemasonry, and he just has this huge collection, and it's really really cool. And so I'll walk you through a couple pictures as soon as screen share pops up. Yeah, it's just a really really fantastic.
So what is it?
It's a museum.
Oh.
Of Masonic symbols. And so, yeah, just here's the view of the ground floor, and the Cowan in the middle of the room, and just going up and down the walls. This guy just collects Masonic artifacts from across the world, and puts them up. This is me or my reflection, with an old apron, and they just have a lot of really cool stuff. On the top floor, they actually have a chamber of reflection, and I'll actually go down to a better view of what's actually in there. They have their own mock chamber of reflection, and they also have a mock lodge room set up. So you can notice there's a tiny coffin in the middle of the room, and they have officers' chairs and jewels, and they even have tracing boards. And another view of the mock lodge room. It's really cool, really neat, and it is a really really fun place to go and spend a couple hours.
Very cool.
So yeah, they break it out by country, by order. I mean, he's got a little bit of absolutely everything in there. The prize of his collection, though, is his Masonic stamps. And this gentleman has 4 books full of Masonic-related stamps, and he was very kind. He was kind enough to bring them out to me so I could just leaf through them, and yeah, it's just.
So, is he a brother? That's the important question.
I believe he is.
Okay.
I do not know.
Collector, but
I believe he's a brother. I'm almost positive he's a brother, but I do not know if it is from the Grand Lodge recognized by the Grand Lodges in the United States.
Interesting.
Because I think Italy has 2.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool.
So yeah, that is the Museum of Masonic Symbols in Firenze, Italia.
Awesome.
And you should really go there if you're ever in Florence, because it doesn't cost very much to get in, and it's well worth your time.
Cool. Thanks for sharing.
No problem.
That's a little hidden treasure. All right, Robert, what's your Masonic wonder of the world you'd like to share tonight?
Sure. So my first one is, it's kind of Masonic. Does that count?
Oh yeah.
So my first one is the Luxor Temple in Egypt. It is supposed to be basically, there's a few books written about it, talking about how it is the temple of man, or it's dedicated to the idea of the temple of man. If you guys have read Manly P. Hall or Milton Pottinger or any number of other guys, it's a really neat esoteric topic, and it's a really neat place, and I don't know a whole lot about it outside of what I've read, so hence it's my first place kind of on my Masonic bucket list to visit. As you can see, I'm trying to screen share some of these pictures. It's beautiful. Looks like they've spent a little bit of money on lighting down there, so you can get some cool pictures and stuff, but I think it'd just be a absolutely fantastic visit. And you know, I would love to visit any of the lodges in Egypt as well. I really don't care if they're recognized or not. So, but they're pretty cool.
Very cool. All right, I guess it's back to me then. Let's see. My next one, and only one that I'll share, is one that's also sort of kind of related to Masonry, depending on how you look at it. And that one is Rosslyn Chapel. So for those who don't know, it's on my bucket list. Rosslyn Chapel is a chapel that was built in 1446. And so it's kind of old. It is still operational as a house of worship. For those keeping track, it is about 150 years after the Knights Templars were dissolved. However, there is a ton of symbolism hidden throughout its architecture. Now, some of you may recall Dan Brown including Rosslyn Chapel as a location in the Da Vinci Code, where I think this was where the documentation of Jesus' bloodline was located. You may or may not find it there. that myth kind of showed up in the 1980s, so I don't know how deeply rooted in antiquity that is. However, there are columns that do have the Templar seal, which I don't have a picture of right now, of two knights riding a horse. It also has stonework of Masonic influence. Some people think that was added later, especially since, again, the building was built sometime around 1446, and we can really trace Masonry really only back to about the mid-1600s. So you could say, was it there? Wasn't it? Is it one of our earliest relics or not? Either way, it's pretty darn old. It's pretty darn cool. You can find that about 30 minutes south of Edinburgh in Scotland. So definitely check that out if you can. All right, that's what I've got. Let's hand it back to Nick Johnson for hopefully one.
I promise I will have only one.
A single continent of Masonry.
Well, see, I don't think anybody's going to say Freemasons Hall, or are they? Because I won't say it. I won't say it. I'll move on to the next thing. So I know we keep teasing it out, since it's a drinking game, guys. I hope you've been preparing for this. But my next place is actually Le Musée de la Franc-Maçonnerie, which is actually run by the Grand Orient de France. So the Grand Orient. I know I just said a dirty word, but it's actually, I've heard it's one of the most interesting museums on Masonry in the entire world. It's just filled with items. I mean, it's not as interesting and intimate as the one in Florence, which I've just added that to my list. But it's got a lot of different items in it. Let me see if I can show you just a couple pics from it. But it's really interesting to me, at least.
And actually, two of our big fans in France, Frederick Voth and Bashira Habad, are both Masons. Yes, one is a woman. We will get to that in a couple weeks. Frederick and Bashira are actually tour guides at this particular museum.
Oh, cool.
And
it's really cool.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, I was reading through their website, which you can find at, I'll just add the link later, but you can look around and see a little bit of the collection that they have. But this is just a tiny little bit. And the thing is also, it's in a modern building. They built this very modern looking building, and it's amazing. And just looking at the pictures, I've got it on my list of places that I have to see because it's just that amazing. So, see, just one.
Yay! But a good one. Thank you, Nick. Juan Sepulveda, bring us another one.
Okay, the other one in my list also has a dual purpose. This one is in Caracas, Venezuela, and I would like to go visit the tomb of Simón Bolívar. For those of you who might not know who Simón Bolívar is, Simón Bolívar was a brother, and he was also known as the Liberator. And during the time where George Washington was here in the States leading the unification of the colonies against the oppressive power of the British Empire, the same thing was happening down in South America, where Simón Bolívar was leading a revolution, unifying all the different states of South America against the Spanish Empire. And I just recently watched the movie called El Libertador, or The Liberator. If you got Netflix and you like a very well-made movie, check that one out. You will not regret it. There's hardly, I couldn't see anything about Masonry in it, but the story is fascinating. The reason I say it's a dual purpose to go visit it is because my comadre, Victor Rosario's wife, she is from Venezuela. So Venezuela is replete of Masonic symbolism in the architecture, and when Victor went to visit, he sent me pictures of all kinds of monuments that have Masonic symbols in them. So it would be a great opportunity to go with them and get to spend some time with my comadre, sharing her place of birth. I think that would be something fun. And Victor and I can geek out about Masonry.
Very cool. I'd love to see some pictures of the Venezuelan architecture as well. That's awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Alrighty. Jason Richards.
Okay. So, my next Masonic bucket list item is also pseudo-Masonic, but it's the Great Pyramid at Giza. And it's just a monument that is absolutely incredible. It's dubious whether or not the Masons or whether or not the Egyptians were actually Freemasons, but some people like to bring Masonry back to the Egyptians. However, one of the really cool things about the pyramids at Giza is their connection to sacred geometry, specifically with the presence of the golden ratio in the Great Pyramid, and then also the fact that the Great Pyramid in and of itself exemplifies the ancient geometric technique of squaring a circle.
Boom.
Yep. And that's just really, really cool. And aside from it being, one of the wonders of the world, I would just love to go see that when Egypt's politics calm down a little bit.
Well, that's pretty cool.
Yep. Back to you, John.
Alrighty. I think are we over to Robert now?
Sure are. So, sorry, I had my thing on mute. So I'll do another screen share here, and my next one is Mother Kilwinning Lodge in Scotland. It's number 0. So if you guys can see this, it actually says from 1140 to 1560, Masons met in the chapter house. It is the lodge that basically gave, well, they claim to, basically have given everybody charter to work. The Mother Lodge of Scotland is situated in Ayrshire town, Kilwinning. The old and ancient lodge of Freemasons dates back to the building of Kilwinning Abbey around 1140 and has a unique history second to none in the Masonic world. It's at 99 Main Street, Kilwinning, Ayrshire. So I first got my taste of this building actually from AMD. The guy who recommended me to join AMD handed me my AMD book, and he's got a whole article on it because he's been there a few times. He's actually the official guy, the liaison between Grand Lodge Illinois and Grand Lodge Scotland. So it's pretty neat. But it looks really cool. It's nothing like huge and ornate. You can see here it's just this one building. It's pretty neat. That's it.
Wow.
That's cool.
Very cool. All right. Bringing it back to me. You might think I'm going to talk about the United Grand Lodge of England, but I'm not. So take a drink if you're following along at home. The one that I have next on my list is in our backyard, Jason.
What could it be?
The George Washington Masonic Memorial.
Dun dun dun.
Built to resemble one of the lighthouses of Alexandria. It is located in Alexandria, Virginia. And what I find fascinating about this building, just in general, it was built in the 20s, and has a lot of definite Masonic symbolism and museums inside of it. But we'll get to that in a second. I think the most fascinating thing about this building is that really, if you're a dues-paying Mason in the United States, a portion of your dues have gone to this building. So all 500 or 5 million, either 3 million, whatever the number is up to now.
I think it's 3.
It's down to 3. We'll talk about that in another episode. A portion of all of your dues have gone to this building over the years, because every Grand Lodge submits a donation to this building. Really, it's yours. And if you're in town, if you're in D.C., you've got to go check this out. Robert, you were going to say something?
Yeah, so I was reading our bylaws because we had to go through them. For us, $5 donation per every Master Mason we raise goes to the George Washington Masonic Memorial.
Wow.
This is your building, yeah.
We did an all-night trip, Brian and I, to go see that and see fellow Midnight Freemason contributor Robert Walk Jr. Down there. And coolest thing ever, they have Wonkavators, for real.
They do. They go slantways and sideways. It's great.
They go slantways. It's pretty neat.
So what is it? Besides an awesome-looking building, on the inside it does have a museum. It has, actually, each floor has its own separate theme. So there is a shrine floor, there is a Knights Templar floor, there's a Yorkite floor. There are 2 operating lodges that do meet there as their permanent residents, and also the research lodge that I'm a member of meets in there as well. So, beautiful building. It's got a museum. It's got some cool stuff in there as well. So check that out if you're in D.C.
I just want to see those Wonka elevators, because I'd totally sit in them and I'd be like, "Come with me, and you'll be in a world of pure Freemasonry."
But you can see why, because this thing does get thinner the higher up you go. It is not a straight elevator. I mean, they're not going to have an elevator shaft right in the center of the building because it would certainly obstruct the view of anything in that floor. So the elevators are actually on the edges of the building. You can see how it has to slant way.
Yeah, is it real? Is it? I'm trying to think. Is it really easy to get there using I don't know, like the metro or whatever?
Yeah, there's a metro stop like 2 blocks from it.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And there you go. Okay, I think we've got about time for one more round, so let's let Nick go next.
Oh boy.
Come on, Grand Lodge of England.
Freemasons Hall.
I'm not going to say it. I can't say it. I'm going to let somebody else do it, and then I can just talk about how the Football Association was founded there. But other than that, I'm not going to talk about it. And that means professional soccer was founded there, but I'm not going to talk about it. Let me show you a building that Okay, so I work in this little place known as Minneapolis. I know, big shocker. But I pass by this particular building a lot. It's the Masonic Temple on Hennepin and 4th. The thing about it is it's no longer a Masonic temple. It was the largest Masonic temple in the state of Minnesota, and I am a chicken. What happened was it was later converted into the Hennepin Center of the Arts, and what they mostly host there are dance competitions, like actual professional dancers, and it also has a theater that uses the old consistory theater, and I have never been in the building. I literally walk by this building almost every single day, just looking at it, staring at it, and I never have the guts to go inside. And the thing about it is, the main reason I'd really love to see it is, I'm not really sure, but my grandfather's lodge, Hennepin Lodge Number 4, that is no longer in existence, met in this particular building, and it met in it as late as the 70s, which would have put that lodge at about the same time he joined. I'm not really sure if this is exactly the building that he met in, but I would love to go in there and just imagine that perhaps, he had taken his degrees in this particular building. It's an amazing building. You can already see on the building itself, there's a lot of Masonic symbolism throughout the whole building, and actually on the top it used to have onion bulb-shaped domes for the shrine. Those have since crumbled away, but this building, it's just an amazing sight, and nobody really notices. It's on Hennepin Avenue, which is near the warehouse district, which is, kind of the hip, trendy place, but, hipsters kind of just walk by, don't really notice it, and it just kind of fades into the distance almost, and it's kind of a pity that no lodge meets there anymore.
Hey, Nick, can you scroll up? Are there's globes on?
Those are in fact globes.
Well, I'll be darned. Surrounding the words Masonic Temple. That's pretty neat.
Yeah, and it also utilizes, you can see kind of here and here, Solomonic columns as well. So yeah, it's an amazing building, and I'd love to one day finally stop being a chicken and whistle walking by it and actually go in. They do have a new restaurant on the bottom that's called the Mason Bar, and
Nice.
I've been thinking about maybe just going in for some chicken wings sometime. So.
You big chicken.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Nick. Juan Sepulveda to bring us to your next one.
All right, the next one is a fairly easy to attain one. This is to visit Union Lodge number 38 in Tennessee, where they have the Masonic Cave degree. There is a group of brothers from our 17th Masonic District here in sunny Florida that get together every year and go to Tennessee to join the Tennessee Brothers in a cave degree. And they actually have a cave, a real cave, where they confer the Master Mason degree. Now, the cool thing about it is that the degrees are not always performed by the brothers from Tennessee. You have excellent degree work teams from different lodges that come over to Tennessee to confer the various degrees on the same weekend. So when you travel up there, you can witness a fellow craft degree. I know that this happens in August, and if I'm not mistaken, the next one is going to take place on Friday, August the 14th. They have a dinner around 4 p.m., and then they confer the fellow craft degree. This year is going to be by High Point Lodge number 773 of Ohio, Monroe, Ohio. And then on Saturday is the conferral of the Master Mason degree. And that is also, that's in the afternoon. Yep, and this one is going to be by Richmond Randolph Lodge number 19 of Virginia. So I would love to go there, not just because of the experience over there, but you can imagine going with a bunch of brothers in a bus, traveling from Florida to Tennessee, spending a few days over there. I think that's a memorable trip right there.
That's awesome.
I couldn't find big enough pictures to screen share. All of them are tiny, so I put some links there for sharing later.
It's hard to see. It's in a cave.
Yeah.
Jason, what have you got?
Okay, so I'm going to talk about two because Nick wasn't man enough to talk about it. So sadly, I had wanted to talk about both the Grand Lodge of Scotland and the Henry W. Coyle Masonic Library in San Francisco, but we're going to have to save that for another time. What I first want to talk about is Freemasons Hall, the headquarters of the United Grand Lodge of England, which is an amazing building. I had the privilege of going there late last year when I was going to Italy and the UK, and didn't get to see any of the lodge rooms, sadly, because they were meeting in them. But when I go back there in 2017, yes, it'll totally happen. then I want more of a tour. So they also have a fantastic gift shop. Now, if you're ever in Wales and you want an authentic Masonic restaurant, you could always go to the Goat Major.
It's a Masonic restaurant.
not in reality. It was just really funny. But the other building we absolutely have to talk about is our very own House of the Temple, the headquarters of the Ancient Accepted Scottish Rite Southern Jurisdiction in Washington, D.C. And we love the House of the Temple so much, we actually devoted an entire show to celebrating the craft fundraiser for the Masonic for the House of the Temple. This place is amazing, especially the library. They have so many books. It is just a veritable treasure trove of Masonic literature and resources. Like Robert Johnson and Frater O drove, almost halfway across the country just to go and do research. And it's worthwhile to actually go and travel all that way just to get your hands on some of these books. And it's absolutely incredible. If you come to the D.C. area, you have to go and see it. They give tours. Larissa Watkins, who is one of their librarians, is absolutely amazing, and she will help you find whatever you're interested in. She's amazing. Yay, House of Temple. That's all I got.
Confirmed.
Yes.
Robert Johnson, bring us home.
Bringing you home. Well,
what's our last one for tonight?
Gosh, I had 3 to go, and I'm not just going to get into it. So, I guess this one would be in our own backyard too. I would like to visit Henry Knox Lodge, which actually meets on the USS Constitution.
Nice.
It meets once a year. It is a you have to be a veteran to be an officer of the lodge, so you have to be active or veteran status. They, like I said, they only meet once a year. I found out about them because of the presentation that I go around doing about colonial masonry, and I heard a rumor that Paul Revere commissioned a lodge on the USS Constitution, but they don't. He didn't. It was done 150 years after the siege of Boston, and so they hold lodge there once a year on the anniversary of the British evacuation of Boston, is what I understand. The Grand Lodge has since told me many stories about the lodge there. They meet on the deck. I think it's a public ceremony that they do, but nevertheless, I think it would just be probably the coolest darn thing ever to go stand on or stand next to a ship that was in the war for our country, and also attend lodge. It would be quite a patriotic event. So, Henry Knox Lodge, that'd be my last one for this week.
All right. Yeah, I know there's so many. So let's go to social media, Jason, and figure out some highlights of others' interest of their hit list.
Well, need to talk about Joe Vanderstelt, who is one of our good listeners and one of our faithful listeners. He actually said, it might not be a Masonic wonder of the world, but he definitely recommends visiting the Masonic Temple in Detroit. And that was the same Masonic Temple that Jack White, a musician for the White Stripes, actually bailed out and saved from going bankrupt a couple years ago. And it's an incredibly an incredibly beautiful building.
And from what I remember, he actually did that because his mom used to work at the Masonic as like an usher or something like that. So
Yeah.
he has like this very close relationship with that building.
Not a co-mason.
No, in fact, he said that he can't join, right? Because he's very Catholic and he can't reconcile the difference. You know?
I did not know that.
Yeah.
So yeah, and that was really about it at this point.
That's a good one. All right, so as an abbreviated,
There is Tranquility Lodge in Texas from Gerald Brown.
Oh yeah.
And what's Tranquility Lodge, Jason?
Tranquility Lodge is the only lodge to ever be founded on the moon. I know. Instead of faking the moon landing, the Masons went and conquered the moon for Masonry. Thank you, Buzz Aldrin. We appreciate it.
The drive there is horrible.
The Grand Lodge of Texas is, you know what we claim as our territory? The whole moon.
That's like U.S.-Soviet politics right there. Like, I planted a flag at the North Pole. No, I planted the flag.
I call dibs.
No takesy-backsies.
All right, brothers. Since we've had plenty that we couldn't get to, as part of our last go-around of final thoughts and shameless plugs, I'm going to give each of you a very short time to just list, without going into detail, anything else you had on your list that you didn't get to. So let's start with Robert Johnson. What was on your list?
Oh, geez. I wanted to go to the south of France and visit the area they talk about in Holy Blood, Holy Grail, and see if I could scope out the area, where the tomb is supposed to be the ossuary that says Arcadia, right? So I wanted to check that out. The other was the Money Pit, or Oak Island, after Brother Stephen L. Harrison wrote that book. Freemasons at Oak Island, go buy it. It's 99 cents. It's fascinating.
He needs to print it.
Yeah.
I'll buy it when he prints it.
I'm sure he's ready to do it. But I wanted to check that out. And the last one was, I never got to go to Pompeii when I was in Italy as a kid, and we went to the sister city.
Herculaneum.
What's that?
Herculaneum.
Yeah. So we went there, and it was also destroyed in the eruption. But they, in the 1860s, they discovered an operative Masonic lodge in Pompeii, and I would love to check that out. So that's it. Are we just wrapping it up now, John?
Sure, go ahead.
All right. So if you like Masonic podcasts, check out Whence Came You, Sunday nights, 9:30. Midnight Freemasons publishing 3 articles every week, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. I thank Brother John and Jason for their recent contributing article, which was done just perfectly. Thank you for everybody who kept it civil. I know it was going to be no joke when I put it up on the winding stairs. I knew we were going to have some people that were going to get banned because it was inevitable. But thank you all for keeping it on the level. It really means a lot to, I know, Brother Juan, who has tried tirelessly to keep that not just a good place to discuss Masonry on the internet, but the best place. So
That makes it a lot better. Thanks.
Yep, thank you. So thanks very much, guys. Thanks for watching the show and hanging out with us.
Coolio. Nick, what did not you get to tonight?
Oh boy. Well, you know, I actually saved Freemasons Hall. I didn't mention that, but actually the reason I actually want to go there is the Connaught rooms, the Connaught or whatever they're called, used to be the old Freemasons Tavern, which is where the FA, so the first professional soccer was founded in right on Great Queen Street, right there. So the crazy soccer everything was founded right there in Freemasons Tavern. I'm still doing the research to see how many Masons were involved, but that was kind of the thing. I'd also like to visit a Swedish Rite Lodge because Holy Smoke Swords. And then Scottish Rite Lodge in New Orleans because, again, swords. And yes, I do have a problem. But that was actually about it. You guys actually hit every single thing on my list. So, yeah. Other than that, I have a blog, millennialfreemason.com. I actually have new content again. I posted a new blog post about looking at Amos 7 to 8 differently because of, and comparing it to the plum, which I've turned it into now a full series of blog posts. So expect every Monday to be seeing some content again. So I'm finally getting back to my promise. But this particular blog post changes how we actually hear what Amos means in that particular setting for the Fellowcraft and how it relates to the plum. So come on out. Thanks, John.
Yeah. No, thank you for that post specifically. That's one of my favorite things is deconstructing the biblical references of Masonry. So you did an excellent job with that.
Well, and especially the funniest part was somebody actually went on one of the Facebook things and said, Freemasonry is not a religion. So, yeah.
Oh.
There you go.
But it is religious.
Uh-huh.
And we'll leave it at that. Juan, what did not you get to tonight?
All right, I did not get to Willy Wonka's Chocolate Factory, which I very specifically put in my list. I would like to go to Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania, for 2 reasons as well.
Richard Ingham.
Richard Ingham. Happy birthday, Richard.
Happy birthday, brother Richard. I want to sit in lodge with that man. That's one of my favorite Masons in the world. But I love Groundhog Day. I love Groundhog Day, and I love Groundhog Day, and I love Groundhog Day. And I want to do the whole tour. I want to see everything. It might seem trivial, but this is something that's important to me. I want to be able to sit in lodge in Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania, and follow Phil Connors in his journey of self-discovery. It's a really deep movie if you pay attention. All right. The other thing, I don't have anything else on my list. I knew we wouldn't have a lot of time. But thank you for the brothers that have contributed to the discussions on the Masonic, on the Winding Stairs Freemasonry group. The group has grown very, very fast. We almost got 1,000 members in a month, this last month. And we are being diligent to keep people out who are not going to contribute positively to the experience, because we need to have a place where we can go and have civil discussions. Like I said at the very beginning of the show, we will talk about difficult things. I want it to be a fertile ground for us to plant seeds of thought and for everybody to do their part to actually tend to those seeds and allow it to bear fruit. Anybody who comes and is trying to, what do you call that?
Troll.
Troll or ground up the seeds that we put down. We just can't allow it. And that should be the whole feeling of every Masonic point of contact on the internet. Yes, we can disagree on things, but brothers, let's keep it civil. And on that note, my latest project that I've been working on, and I would appreciate if you can go check it out, is called the Gentleman's Brotherhood. This is not a Masonic endeavor, but there are a lot of Masons involved in it. It is a community of men who place great value on having common courtesy and having good manners and really having a positive impact on the people they come across. It's going to be a podcast, YouTube channel. There's great plans on the pike. There's a few episodes, a few articles out. Go check it out. It's on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Tumblr, everywhere. So, the Gentleman's Brotherhood. Check it out.
Thank you, Juan.
Thank you, brothers.
Jason.
Okay, so didn't get to 3 things today. I wanted to talk a little bit about the Grand Lodge of Scotland Museum, just because arguably Freemasonry was alive and well in Scotland before the Grand Lodge of England was started, and the Grand Lodge of Scotland and the Grand Lodge of Ireland were very instrumental in spreading Freemasonry throughout Europe. through their warrants and their charters that they gave to lodges all throughout Europe. But I'd love to see some more stuff specifically about Robbie Burns, and I think the Grand Lodge of Scotland would be an amazing. Yeah, Juan's holding up the Robbie Burns Masonic pin that you can get off of eBay, which is absolutely incredible. So yeah, wanted to go to the Grand Lodge of Scotland and check that out. I also wanted to visit the Henry Wilson Coyle Museum and Library in San Francisco, California. Henry Wilson Coyle was a Masonic author who I hold in very, very high esteem. His encyclopedia of Freemasonry is absolutely fantastic, and I just thought it would be really neat to go and see the treasure trove that he accumulated during his lifetime. And then finally, one place you should really visit is the Harry Potter Studio Tour in just outside of London, because they have so many alchemical references throughout the props there that were used in the movies. It's just crazy looking at all the potions and these faded paintings on castle walls that you don't actually see in the movie because they're so faded. You can make out different alchemical symbols and combinations, and it's really cool for someone who's interested into the esoteric side of things.
I'm buying my ticket right now.
Yes, you absolutely should. Maybe we'll do that when we go in 2017. Who knows?
Good point.
So anyway, thanks everybody for reading our article up on the Midnight Freemasons. The response was generally fantastic. So good discussion. I don't care if you agree with it or not. We need to talk about it. It's not about whether or not John and I framed the problem correctly or whether we were completely off base. It's the fact that we need to talk about this, and hopefully that article will spur some of that discussion. Thank you so much for watching. Keep sending us your ideas for shows, and stay tuned. I think the next couple of shows are going to be really good too.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all I got.
Thank you. We love you, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Boom.
So let's see. The last two I did not get a chance to cover were the Grand Lodge of Ireland. We talked about the Grand Lodge of Scotland, Grand Lodge of Ireland, and of course the Grand Lodge of England were the three major Grand Lodges during especially the colonial period. So let's not forget our brethren in Ireland as well. But another one that I wanted to cover is just as a neat did you know kind of fact is that there is a tomb of King Hiram of Tyre, which is a prominent figure in Masonry, and it is an actual tomb that is located somewhere. So it's definitely near Tyre, obviously, but I don't know the exact location. But it's one of those places, one of those things that, like, hey, that'd be kind of cool to visit and see what that's all about, just to say. You saw the guy. You saw the guy's burial place. And then finally, the last place you should visit is themasonicroundtable.com to help support the show, buy a pin, and help us out to keep our lights on. So that's all I got. This was much more entertaining than I thought it was going to be. You brethren never cease to amaze me in the wealth of knowledge that you have. So thank you very much to the co-host. Thank you very much for the listeners, and keep searching for more light. Have a good night.